What's happening, everyone? Just a forewarning, I shot some of these videos out of order, so some of the talking points may overlap. Okay, so I'm going to start in basically reverse order. So the stock brakes on this car are first generation. This is a second generation caliper, and I'm going to show you that against the existent one off the now defunct Fat and Slow drag car. As you can see, the first generation is a single piston slider, and the second generation is dual piston and they're opposing. So what I'm doing is running the second generation rotor with that because it's slightly larger. It's, I believe, actually the same size as the first generation front, but you can kind of make out a little bit there the difference in size. It's not a ton, just a bit, but nonetheless, you know, bigger is better, so to speak, especially with the car being a little bit of weight. For the fronts, a little explanation is probably necessary. This is the Mustang 2 knuckle that'll be the front of the car now, and this is a stock first generation knuckle for a Stealth for 3000. As you can kind of tell here, if I can get this against each other, this is rear steer, and for the exact same part, it'll be front steer. So those will actually be on opposing sides, since I'll not be running the steering in the front of the axle center line, you know, versus the rear on the stock. So this is a factory first generation rotor, and that's a Mustang 2 style rotor. It's actually a rotor for a Ford Grenada, but the Mustang 2 is smaller in diameter than the factory Mitsu rotors. So diameter wise, you're about 15 some millimeters. It converts to roughly 5/16 on the radius, so you're barely losing anything between these two. So that allows me to run the factory brake caliper for this setup on the Grenada rotor on the Mustang 2 setup. So that saved me a lot of brake system upgrading, and if I so choose at a later date, they have better braking like Willwood and stuff like that you can get for calipers and whatnot. So I can upgrade for this in addition to, you know, scallop rotors and everything else if I really want to go crazy at some point. So very user friendly with the options I have for that. But for right now, it's also going to help me with my brake setup to keep the factory master and brake proportioning and all that stuff. So basically, I'm staying with first generation front brakes and second generation rear with a Mustang 2 with a Grenada rotor. That's kind of a mouthful. So this one thing I found that I'm going to run into is a Mustang 2. This would be skinnier, and it's 2.55 inches, whereas this is 2.78. And the factory Mitsu hub size is 2.64. So what I have to do is take this and machine it down to fit inside of the factory wheel. Then this bolt pattern is actually 5 by 4.5 or 5 by 114.3 for all you metric heads. So it will actually fit the factory wheel. And all I have to do is knock these out and put in a metric stud that is the appropriate thread and length to use the factory wheel, factory lug nuts on the Grenada rotor on the Mustang 2 suspension. So I think that covers it all. If I'm wrong, I'll add it at the end of the video here, but long and the short of it, got to get that done, and then we can move along. That part sorted.